Okay. Testing. Is the mic on, do you think? Is it amplified? Yeah. You can hear me really well. Great, because you're right in the line. Okay, good. Well, it's good to be back. I was gone last week. We spent some time. I have I don't know if I'd call it a band, but we've got a group we wrote songs for the 21 Tara mantras. We wrote melodies to them. And we went in the studio this weekend in Nevada City and recorded the first 7 of the 21. So all week, last week, we were rehearsing in Bolinas and trying to get ourselves ready for this weekend. And it went well. We did what we set out to do, and I'm excited to hear what the producer does with it. So Jenny Trebell, an old friend of mine, subbed last week, and it sounds like I watched a little bit of it, and it looked like a lot of fun. Yeah, I knew she'd be good. She's cool. Yeah, she's cool. And you showed up. Was that you? No, somebody else. Peter. Yeah, Peter. That's right. It's Peter, not you. And he did a great job too. That was fun. I was giggling. I was chuckling. I was like, oh, cute. It's fun when the teacher's out of town, people get to step up and get a little uncomfortable and lead the chants, and it's good. So I see some new faces. Welcome, everybody. These classes are ongoing. People, you're welcome to drop in, drop out as much as you want. But we are kind of clipping along on this theme of the 59 Lojong, or mind training slogans. So every week we'll talk about one, usually just one. And we'll meditate and do some chanting. It's kind of basic framework. Sometimes we do a little bit of movement to loosen up the body and feel more comfortable for meditation. And sometimes I would like to move into doing dyad work. I've been thinking about doing that for a while, and I noticed that Jenny did a little bit of that, and it seems like it's a nice thing. So there are ways that we can bring, I've been thinking a lot about this over the years, bringing the slogan into dyad work in an interesting way. But we're not going to do that tonight, but I'm just preparing you. Won't be the whole class, but it might be like a brief way to invite you guys to really digest it, take it in, and then feel and express how it lands for you personally with another person witnessing that. It's nice. Okay, so we'll start like usual with our prayer of Narayaṇi. We'll do 11, and tonight we'll just do it with a drone. Sometimes I bring my harmonium. I thought we would do a drone. I don't know if the mic is going here or let's see how it sounds. We've got a new sound system tonight. It's exciting, so that music can happen. Should I open it? Make it louder? Yeah. So I'm playing this drone as the bass, and then the melody will move around on top of it, just like we normally do. So if you're new, just follow along. It's the prayer that's on the top of the sheet. I'll call the first line. You can repeat after me. I'll call the second line. You'll respond like that. Call, response. And then we'll do it all together 11 times. So let's close our eyes. Take some breaths and allow ourselves to settle in. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Nārāyaṇi namostute, Nārāyaṇi namostute. Together. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Mahatmya namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha paritrāṇa parāyaṇe Sarvasyārti hare Devi Nārāyaṇi namostute. And let's spend a few minutes dropping in with our breath into the present moment, letting ourselves luxuriate in this space. And just spend some time really feeling this quality of being in the moment, being with whatever is here for you right now. Feeling your breath in the body, in the belly. It might be helpful to, as you breathe in, feel like you're expanding not just the lungs and the belly, but also the mind, the space of the mind, aerating, opening, becoming more vast. Breathing in, expanding, breathing out, releasing, and settling. Sometimes we don't realize how locked in we are to the four walls of the mind. So let the breath aerate the inner space, the body, the heart, the head. See if you can release tension with the out-breath. And let yourself settle, the natural state. And then from this space, pull forth your own personal prayer of intention, this bodhicitta infused purpose or calling, this perhaps very deep instinctive pull to awaken, to get liberated, and to be of service in some way in the world through that liberation. And let that inform and infuse your personal, unique motivation for coming and practicing. To heal, to feel more calm and satisfaction, whatever it might be for you. Even speak it internally, crystallize your own bodhicitta prayer. Thank you. So feel free to open your eyes. So we'll revisit the inner space for, my hope is, for a good longer sit than I usually do, maybe a 45-minute sit tonight. Let's see how that goes. But we're jumping into the beautiful space of Dongland tonight. This is our slogan number 7. So if you want to look at your sheet, you'll see that the 7th is where we start to get into the realm of the relative level bodhicitta practice, which is compassion, cultivating compassion. Ways, methods, inspirations for us to, in a sense, start to open our capacity as an aspiring bodhisattva, somebody who aspires to awaken for the benefit of everyone, not just ourselves. That's that kind of more expansive motivation that became really prominent in more of the Mahayana era of development and in Buddhism in India around the turn of the millennium. It's not that compassion wasn't there before. Buddha lived and taught around 500 BCE, and his teachings weren't written down until a few hundred years later. It was all oral tradition, right? And then around the turn of the millennium, a very extraordinary thing happened, which is this Mahayana, or called the Great Vehicle development, where the emphasis became less on the Vinaya, which was important, but it's the monastic. The Vinaya was the monastic, the rules, the regulations, how to live in community, how to be celibate. There were hundreds of those. And it got kind of overwhelming, perhaps, for a lot of people. So in this Mahayana era, there was a desire to kind of slough off the structure of that type of framework, that Dharma had become very monasticized, you could say, very much living in the institution. And people wanted to practice, like women wanted to practice, right? And women could as nuns, but how about householders, people with children? So Mahayana was this movement to be like more broad and more focused on motivation rather than the rules. So maybe I break the rule, but if the motivation was good, that's okay. It's not so horrible, right? So there's a nice kind of breathing of fresh air, freshness into the practice. And even the Vipassana and the Theravada traditions kind of reverse adopted some of the Mahayana themes and made them their own. So it's not like this linear boxed in development. It's a very interesting part of history within India, within Buddhism. And so this Mahayana approach is the couch or the space within which the Lojong teachings occur and grew out of. Okay, so we're very much studying Mahayana Buddhism here. And so bodhicitta is really important. That's that motivation to be of benefit, to do good, as best as we can. We don't have to get it perfect, but always check our motivation behind what we do and say, and even think. That's important too. So the seventh slogan here is the first that really hones in on the relative level bodhicitta teachings. The first slogan focused on preliminaries, the basics, so to speak, and then 2 through 6 were really emphasizing absolute bodhicitta. So that's this overview for those of you who might be new to class tonight. So here we are, number 7. Who wants to read it out loud? Somebody read it? Katie?
Sending and taking should be practiced alternately. These two should ride the breath.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is teaching us how to do Dongland, sending and receiving. This is the Tibetan word for this. I don't know what it would be in Sanskrit or Pali, actually. That's a good question. These slogans in particular were composed in Tibetan. Atisha took the Lojong themes from India up into Tibet around the 11th century. But the ones that I would just want to clarify that, the ones that we're studying here were not written by Atisha. They were written by Chekawa Yeshe Dorje, who's the author of this text. But they very much build on the themes of Atisha, the great Mahayana teacher. So here we go. Sending and taking. Dongland. Sending is dong, taking is len. Dongland should be practiced alternately. They should ride the breath. So what do you think? How many people are new to Dongland and Lojong tonight? Yeah, don't be shy. Yeah. Do you think you send with the out breath or take with the out breath? Right. You would think. It's a totally valid answer. Most people would think, yeah, okay, we're sending with the out breath. And if you're familiar with metta, loving kindness practice, it's very much we're sending loving kindness. And then we would think we're taking with the in-breath. Well, that's true. But what you're sending and taking are kind of flipped. Okay, so you're right. But you would think, perhaps from a self-centered perspective, that you might want to take in all that is good and then let go of or send away. You could say all that is bad, right? That could be maybe a basic understanding. But what Lojong and Dongland does in this practice is they turn that and reverse it. And they say, no, we're going to up the ante here, challenge ourselves even more and say, how about trying sending what you want to keep, basically giving away, offering up what you want to keep for yourself, and then taking what you would normally send away. And so it really stretches the mind, it stretches the heart in a very edgy, but sometimes cathartic and interesting and even exciting way. Whoa, I didn't think I could do that, but I could. I didn't think I'd like it, but it actually feels beautiful or satisfying or liberating. But of course, you have to try it for yourself, right? And feel it. So there are many different ways to practice, and we will do one of them. But something I'd like to say is that, why did absolute bodhicitta slogans come before this kind of more relative level bodhicitta practice of compassion? Absolute bodhicitta is about learning about emptiness and the nature of reality. Relative level bodhicitta is about how do you walk your talk? How do you live in the world with a heart as a good person? Well, because we need to understand the big picture. We need to understand the map. Why are we doing this? And what context within which does our life and our thoughts and our suffering and our hopes and fears and liberation arise? So all of those first slogans were talking about big picture stuff and emptiness, right? And what they say is that we have to at least have a taste of that. You don't have to have a direct realization of emptiness to do Dongland, but at least have an appreciation for impermanence, for emptiness, the non-solidity of my thoughts, your thoughts, sound, all the senses, the impressions, so that we're a bit loosened up, right? It's like we've tanned the hide. The leather is soft. It's prepared. It's not stiff like it is in the beginning. So we're a bit softened up. We're a bit more malleable for the practice of Dongland. And what the absolute or ultimate, either way, either word is fine. Sometimes people say absolute, sometimes people say ultimate. Bodhicitta does is it helps us have a feeling of spaciousness within ourselves and within our capacity to even flirt with, you could say, taking what we would usually want to give away and offering what we would normally want to keep for ourselves. Like, why on earth would I want to take on somebody else's suffering? Well, what they say is you would only do that if you at least have a foundational understanding, at least, of emptiness. Otherwise, you're going to reify the person, you're going to reify yourself, you're going to reify their suffering, your suffering. Things are too... You'll take the practice too literally, is another way of saying it, yeah? So it also, understanding emptiness also helps us have more spaciousness with our own pain, with our own suffering, with our own heartbreak, right? Because we can see, okay, yeah, that's there, but it's not all of who I am. A part of me feels heartbroken. A part of me is angry. A part of me doesn't feel worthy, yeah? It's not all of me, right? We're made up of so many different things, not just one thing. We're not static. So that's another way of understanding emptiness. So this open heart is another way of expressing ultimate bodhicitta. Another way of feeling what that is like in our body, rather than a closed heart. So it's not, I'm not saying you have to have an open heart and then you do Dongland. The Dongland actually also helps you develop a more tenderized heart, so that there's a lot of room in there. and a capacity to grow. See, often we take things so seriously. Maybe we have, not everybody, but sometimes we take things seriously. I won't assume. But I do need, my eyes are going, it's funny. Yeah, usually we shield our heart, right? The heart is shield. Do you feel that even? Like, even just close your eyes for a moment and take some breaths. It might not be true for you right now, but just see, like, what is true for you right now? Like, can you breathe directly into the heart space, and what do you find there? If you were to breathe directly, like 360 degrees all around you, just draw the breath directly in through the pores into the heart. How does it feel in there? And I'm talking about the heart chakra, right? The center of the sternum, center core of your being, not the literal organ of the heart. But that organ also is a part of it. So keep breathing there and seeing if just bringing your attention to the space of the heart, whether it's feeling closed off or shielded, or maybe a little tight, or does it feel pretty open and aerated and spacious? Maybe there's a sadness there, or joy, or something in between. What do you feel as you breathe directly in and out from the heart space? And with each breath, can you feel that the heart space is becoming more ventilated, more aerated, less guarded if it was guarded, less solid or stuck if it was stuck and solid? So this is the core element of the Dong and the Len, is the breathing in and out directly from this heart space and aerating that heart space. I mean, oftentimes we don't even really know how to get in there. Maybe with the eyes closed, even just popcorn style, offer up into the space a word of what you find in the heart space for you. What do you find here? A word or two.
Mild tightness.
Mild tightness. Uh-huh. Warmth.
Fear.
Fear. Squirreliness. Swirliness. Yeah, so everybody keep breathing into those feelings that you're naming. Who else?
Openness.
Okay, openness, and then worry. Yeah, good. Just keep breathing directly in and out. Anyone else? Even if you don't, if it's numb, that's something.
Trying.
Uh-huh. Trying.
Pressure.
Pressure.
Breeze.
Breeze. Anyone else? I'm feeling a desire to expand. There's like a pushing, like an opening. And then maybe a shell of fear there, right? So yeah, it's beautiful to hear that kind of collective poem of the heart. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that's where we start. We start with ourself, with the Dongland. What do we find there? What's exiled from the heart, what's wanting in, what's terrified, And there are many different ways to do Dongland. It's really fun to kind of explore the different techniques and over the centuries that have been developed. But the main thrust is to really start from a feeling of, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, this feeling of common humanity that we all share. No matter who we are, even animals, not just humans, but we all desire happiness and want to avoid suffering. We all share that. And recognizing that even our most challenging people in our lives, at least we have that in common with them. Our so-called enemies, they too want to be happy and free of suffering. We might not agree with the way to go about it. And so it's that from that basic humanity that then we practice the Dongland when we start to branch out to work with others in our meditative practice. And so we're going to do that in a moment, but I want to just give you, there are various techniques, but I want to just right away just give you the 4 steps of the technique that I teach. It's very common. It comes from Chogyam Trungpa, Rinpoche, and Pema Chodron. These common 4 stages, classic Dongland practice. The first step is to have a flash of emptiness. You flash on shunyata. Doesn't have to be a big intellectual thing. It's like a feeling. Like, let's try that right now. Just like that interconnected, empty, vibratory, almost like sky or cloud-like, impermanent, shifting sands of our being. And within that, there's infinite potentiality. And there's a feeling of connection points like Indra's net. With each connecting point in the net is a multifaceted jewel, and it reflects every other jewel in the net. It's infinite universes within infinite universes. So that's shunyata. So we have this flash of spaciousness, flash of openness. That is like coming back to that slogan, rest in the ground, the alaya. Remember a few slogans ago. It's like that, flash on that. And we've practiced that. So you probably have had a taste. And even if you didn't come to those classes, don't worry. I think you probably have a sense of intuition of what that feels like. Right, and then the second step is, after that flash, is to work with the breath and work with texture. Work with texture. And the way we work with texture is riding the breath and feeling. You can even keep your eyes closed if you like. If this feels good, you can keep the eyes closed and just feel it. So the out breath is this offering of a cool, like clear breeze, you could say. Sometimes people feel it like sunlight, a warmth, or like a cooling breeze that clears away suffering, right? So there's this out breath like the wind, you could say. And then the in breath is a breathing in of more of a dense cloud. So we're working with the opposites here, right? So even just imagine what that's like. Breathing in something that's a bit more dense, and then feel the heart space transforming it into a cool breeze like wind or light, diffusing the cloud. You can imagine the cloud is gray or dark or whatever color you like. You breathe in a more dense texture, and then breathe out a cool, clarifying, lighter texture. I just practice that for the next 5 breaths. And again, feel like with each in-breath, you're breathing directly into this heart space, this alaya, and then breathe out from the heart space, the cool, clear texture. And as you're breathing, feel that that space of the heart becomes more and more aerated, and that you even sense like a kindling of an inner flame there, consciousness, like the nature of your own mind, like a candlelight or an ember of light that starts to glow, become enlivened. It's like the light of consciousness starting to open, become more bright with the breath aerating it. Yeah? And that's very important because that's your anchor. That space, there's infinite potential there. That's the portal to the deathless state. That's the nature of your own mind. It's like the key into the infinite space, but it's also who you are. It's not impersonal, right? Your Buddha nature. So when we breathe in the cloud, or eventually we breathe in the challenge, it touches that luminosity. It can't harm it because it's like adamantine, like a vajra, this diamond-like nature of mind. And then the breathing out is an offering, but you're not losing anything, right? So keep breathing with that feeling. Even if you were to take on a big breath of something that you might not want, you can aerate it, transform it at that luminous orb of light in your heart space. And then transform, liberate, and send out a remedy or this cool breeze that liberates. So that's the second step, this texture breathing. And then if you like, you can open your eyes. We'll go into the formal practice in a moment, but the third step is to then, after you've worked with yourself for a while, then you start to grow the edge of the heart, the capacity by working with someone else. But you first work with a loved one, someone towards whom it's easy to feel affection and care for, okay? So we'll do a whole survey, we'll do that, where we'll spend maybe 10 breaths just working with someone towards whom you feel affection, a family member, a friend, a partner, a parent. And we'll feel that. Maybe they're suffering. So you imagine that there's like a cloud around them taking shape as they're suffering, whatever it might be, an illness. And you recognize that common humanity. Like me, they wish to be free of suffering. Like me, they want to be happy. So let's just experiment and feel what it would be like to then have that aspiration to breathe in, relieve their suffering, take off the load, the weight for a while. In the imaginary world, don't worry, it's not literal, right? Take it in, transform it at your heart, then send out the remedy. You're not trying to fix them. This is a very important subtle point. Can we get a little more light in here? It's kind of bright, dark. It's not like I'm going to fix you and make you just what I think you should be. It's more of like intuitively, what would the remedy be for that person? Maybe we have a child who's having some depression and anxiety, so common these days. So maybe you could just offer them ease and satisfaction or self-confidence, whatever you think really would be a generous remedy to whatever is ailing them. And you offer that in the form of that out-breath texture. Okay? Then the next step within this 4-step, there are these 3 phases here. A loved one, you've already worked with yourself. That's ground zero. Then you do a loved one. Then when you feel capacitated, you can work with neutral people. And this is really interesting because I always thought this was a nothing, like, oh, neutral. Don't like, don't dislike, easy. But most of humanity and sentient beings are neutral people to us. We don't know them. I mean, maybe we feel some sense of care or aversion, but for the most part, most of sentient beings all around the world we don't know them. So they could be in that neutral category. So working with a neutral person, the male person, the mailman, the person at the checkout counter that you don't really know their name, you don't have a strong like or dislike, somebody you see in your neighborhood, like that, someone that doesn't really trigger you in either direction. You work with them for a while and start to develop a sense of care. Like, may you be free of suffering. Yeah? May I offer you that remedy? And work with that for a while. What does that feel like? And then shifting into the next phase, when you feel somewhat capacitated, into the so-called enemy. We might not have enemies in our life, but we might have people who trigger us. And those people might even be our best friends, actually, right? Or a parent or a sibling. Might be like, I love them, but they really bother me. So work with that. Like, okay, for now, they're my trigger. So then you would imagine them in front of you. They're suffering whatever it is that ails them in the form of a dark, smoky vapor. You breathe it in, transform it to your heart, offer out a remedy. Again, not trying to fix them. People often ask that, like, I feel like I'm kind of manipulating. It's not like that. Remember, it's the Bhagavad Gita story of Arjuna teaching, or Krishna teaching Arjuna. Once you release the arrow, you have to let go of attachment to the outcome of your action. Same thing with the Dongland. When you breathe out, you let go. You offer it, may you be well, but no strings attached, right? And then you work with that for a while. So these are the phases, but you don't have to do it in that order. Sometimes I drop right into an enemy. Sometimes I drop right into myself and just do that, right? You can modify according to your needs. And then the last moment is this kind of more cosmic experience of the world. And then feel what that's like, of that, recognizing there is suffering everywhere. May I, even in this meditation seat, imagine what it would be like to alleviate that suffering with the in-breath, take it in, transform it at my Buddha nature heart, and breathe out the cosmic solar wind of clearing, right? And feel what that is. How does that affect you? I'm going to say this one thing and then we're going to do it. We'll stand up and stretch our legs for a sec before we meditate. It actually, we might never know if this helps other people. So I want you to track how it affects you when you're doing it. That's what I care about. That's really what's quantifiable, you know? How is it affecting you to stretch like this, to experiment like this? I remember I did this with a family member who really, really, I felt very righteous about not liking them. They hurt me. And I could have really got stuck with that. But I realized, okay, I call myself a Lojong practitioner, you know, let's see. And I sat down and I put them in front of me in my mind's eye and I said, okay, you know what? I might really hate you right now, but like me, you don't want to suffer. I recognize that, you know, sure. And I really worked with her. And it took a while and there were tears, you know, there was my own catharsis there. But by the end of that, it was just took one sit that time. Totally changed. I released her. Because what we're doing here, especially with the challenging ones, is we're letting go of the rope and the tug of war. Because you're like, I don't have to play this anymore. And so the tension. And what was so amazing about it, I'm not promising this for you all, I'm just saying, what really gave me faith in this practice is that experience, other experiences too. But I didn't tell her about this. I didn't share it with other people who would have talked to her about this. After we had had a big fight, I thought we just weren't going to talk again. But after I did this and I let go of the tug of war, she just started being nice to me and loving. And I was to her too. It's like we didn't have to talk about it. We let go. She felt it. People feel these things, right? There's an energetic karmic link with people, whether we know them or they're neutral. We're all linked. You're linked with me and I'm linked with you. We're breathing the same air, right? So pay attention to that. How does it affect you? We're not even so concerned about what's happening out there, but it can help. I think prayer does help too, right? But we don't want to be too fixated on that. What we can really notice is how it's affecting us. Yeah. Okay, cool. Any questions or comments before we stand up, stretch for a moment, and then we'll sit back down and practice? Any thoughts? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's go ahead and stand on up. And let's just take some time doing whatever you want. Let's take a couple minutes. If you want, you can reach your arms overhead. I'll offer some stuff, but not the warm-ups like I usually do. I'll just do some things. If you want to follow me, you can. If you want to do what feels good to you, your yoga moves, belly dancing, qigong, whatever. Just maybe tune into the body and feel what you need. Be nice to fold forward a little bit, get some weight off the lower back, traction the spine and the neck. Squatting is also really nice for the hips. And then let's start to find our way to our meditation seat. If you'd like to shift or adjust so that you're comfortable, please feel free to do that. Sit in a chair, get an extra pillow. Good, and let's settle in now. Allow the eyes to close when you're ready, and begin by taking some deep breaths. Notice if there's any tension in the face. Release with the out breath. Letting that tension melt down into the earth. The jaw soften, the shoulders relaxed, the chest buoyant, arms relaxed, hands in a comfortable position on your lap. Notice the belt line, the belly. Breathe into it and relax any holding or tension. The front of the belly, the side, the kidneys, and the back. Feel yourself nice and balanced on the sits bones. You can even tilt the pelvis forward and back a little bit. That feels good. Find your plumb line. And then settle into it. Feel the tailbone dropping, rooting down into the earth. The hips relaxed, the legs comfortable. And again, coming back to this quality of presence, this breath in the body, letting the mind be relaxed, spacious. Release thought, distraction as soon as you can, as soon as you notice, a gentle touch, and then relax. Soften, release, grasping. And cut loose fixation, rumination. As soon as you notice it, cut it loose. And now let's move into the first stage of the Dongland, this flashing on emptiness, this open, spacious awareness. Just feel it in your body, flash on emptiness. And it's within that spacious, open to any and all potential space that we enter into now, noticing the breath. Let it be rhythmic. And just feeling the texture. The in-breath, it could even be warm, maybe more dense, like a darkish cloud. Moving in, and with the out-breath, flowing out, a cool, clear breeze or light. Stay with the breath and work with this texture. A little bit more of a heavy in-breath and a lighter, clarifying out-breath even. Feel it. And even feel the breath moving directly into the heart space, the heart chakra, the center of the sternum, and then moving out directly from the heart space. Aerating the heart, feeling that absolute bodhicitta nature of your own mind kindling in the heart space as you breathe. And now let's spend some time with ourselves. Self Donglen. First, it's like a baby step, but it's an important step. And it can be the whole practice. feel your body like a tapestry of colors or sensations. Maybe you've walked in with a heavy heart or a tense back or a headache or some thought or challenge that you're carrying with you. And where does that live in your body? And when you find that feeling of something you've been pushing away, maybe something that's been exiled from the heart space, turn towards it, and with the in-breath, feel it like a texture drawing in. Maybe it's a bit heavier, drawing that, inviting it into that luminous orb of light at your heart. And then with the out-breath, the cool breeze can be a feeling of softening around it, where you're letting go the resistance, a letting be, and stay with the breath. We'll do about 10 breaths like this, working with anything you've been pushing away. Welcome it into the heart. And then breathe out a feeling of more space, more patience, whatever it might be, whatever remedy feels good for you. And if you're feeling resistance, then breathe in the resistance. If you're feeling fatigue, breathe in the fatigue. If you're feeling distracted, breathe in the distraction. And breathe out whatever remedy. And now we'll shift in this kind of survey Dongland practice. We're going to now shift into the next stage, which is working with a loved one. And now we bring forth more of the faculty of visualization or imagination, really. Imagine in your mind's eye a loved one that you'd like to work with tonight, maybe somebody who's been having a hard time. someone you love very much. Maybe they have an illness or other challenges in their life. Choose one person, there might be many. For the sense of clarity, pick one person and then see them as clearly as you can in your mind's eye in front of you. Maybe remembering how they looked the last time you saw them. And then, like an intuitive sense, you can see almost that their suffering is surrounding them like a cloud, like an energy field. Maybe it's more dense. Acknowledging that, like you, they wish to be free of suffering and develop this heartfelt wish to help them in some way be free of that suffering. And see how this feels now. With the inhalation, you begin to take in that suffering in the form of the cloudy vapor. Directly into your heart space, breathe it into that orb of light at your heart. Feel that emptiness, that shunyata, aerating the heart, then transforming the suffering, and then breathing out the clear, cool, healing breeze, intuitively offering a remedy or even just acceptance. May you be well. May you be happy. Spend about 15 breaths now with this loved one. And noticing with each breath, maybe that cloud becomes thinner, lighter. Really imagine. Feel some benefit. With these last few breaths, really feel that their disposition brightens, whatever suffering or heaviness they had lightens. They become more buoyant, free of their suffering, like a visioning. Envision it. May it be so. Sometimes it's helpful to even say a phrase internally, may you be well, may you be free of suffering, may you heal, whatever comes to mind. Good, and then now dissolve back into the space, that visualization. And from that fabric of space, now invite a so-called neutral person to appear before you in your mind's eye now. You can kind of scan your life. Who would you like to work with? Who do you see, but maybe you don't know? You haven't had interactions with them that would push you into like or dislike. Maybe it's hard to find somebody who's a pure neutral person in your life, but that's okay. Just come as close as you can. And then see them as clearly as you can. What did they look like the last time you saw them? We might not know that they suffer or what they suffer from, but we can imagine just being in a human body is problematic sometimes. Maybe they're working with physical or financial or emotional challenges, and you can just feel, intuit that, see it as a smoky vapor around them, and recognizing, like you, that shared humanity, they wish to be free of suffering. May we in some way help relieve that. And with the in-breath, drawing in that smoky vapor directly into the orb of light at your heart, transforming that into light and offering a cool, clear, healing out-breath. May you be well. May you have abundance. May you be happy. Whatever comes to mind, offer it with the out-breath. The breath is a mindfulness practice. If the mind starts to distract, concentrate it. Bring it back, riding the in and the out breath, the texture, the intention, and the imagery. Stay. Next couple breaths, really see any kind of obstacles in their life removed. Maybe their face brightens, sparkle in their eye, they smile, they feel whole. May it be so. And then allowing that imagery to dissolve back into the space of the mind. And now we take a step further in the Dongland practice by now imagining, drawing forth a challenging person, the so-called enemy. Scan and feel, who would you like to work with? Who's most up or triggered for you right now? And then bring them into your mind's eye. Imagine they were right there in front of you, standing, seated. See them as you did the last time you were together. And again, like you, they wish to be free of suffering. They might not know how to go about it. Maybe they cause suffering with their actions, but in their core, there is goodness. There's that desire to be free. So recognize that in them. And then also recognize that their suffering is surrounding them like a cloud. And with that strength of the aspiring Buddha that you are, may you have the courage to then take in with the in-breath, draw their suffering into the orb of light at your heart, that indestructible orb of light in your heart. And then breathing out directly from the heart, 360 degrees, a cool, clear, healing wind, clearing that cloud of suffering. You can, with internal voice, may you be free of suffering. Metta phrases or whatever comes to mind, whatever remedy. May you have wisdom. May you have clarity. Stay with the breath. Notice your feelings, but don't get pulled off into distraction. Stay with yourself. Stay with this being in front of you. And how does it feel for yourself as you do the practice? Over the next few breaths, feel any resistance to them dissolving as you breathe out that care, even though they challenge you. You can see that they suffer too. Breathe it in and then breathe out, the offering of freedom from suffering, even liberation, awakening to their true nature. And in that awakening, the causes of harm dissolve. Really wish that for them. And maybe you see that their disposition brightens, a sense of buoyancy in their step or their air. Really see them in their full flourishing. And then dissolve this now back into the space. And last step is to now pan way back. And let's imagine now that we scan way back and we imagine that we sit on the moon in space and we're looking back at the earth. And we can intuitively feel in this whole kind of cosmic, tragic comedy of samsara and the earth, surrounded by smoky vapor. And with the courage of a bodhisattva, the spiritual warrior, for lack of a better word, we have that courage to just see what it feels like. What would it feel like if we inhaled that smoky vapor to our cosmic heart and then exhaled that solar wind of clearing, relieving the suffering, the famine, the war, the violence, the abuse. Breathing in that texture of that smoke, and then breathing out the cool, clear, healing remedy, balancing of the elements, people's delusion and ignorance fading away, and luminosity, liberation, compassion, care starts to grow and flourish. And in the last few breaths, I feel that this comes to fruition. May it be so. What would it feel like? Even if it's a fantasy, why not? Sky's the limit. And really feel that the earth and its inhabitants getting what they need. And staying in this contemplative mode, I'd like to offer a mantra to the 21st Tara. Her name is Tara, rays of light. So in the vein of this sending of light and clearing and benefit, we can sing it now. Offer it through song, through voice. The mantra goes like this. You can repeat after me, and of course you're always welcome to just listen too. You don't have to sing if you don't want to, but don't be shy. This is devotion, it's not performance. So again, an extension of the heart space opening. So we're praying to the Great Mother in the form of Tara, the Savioress, manifesting as rays of light. Tara Marichi in Sanskrit. Uzer Chenma in Tibetan. Her mantra you can repeat after me if you'd like to practice. Om Tare, Om Tare, Tut Tare, Tut Tare, Ture, Mariche, Mariche, Che, Rom, Nija, Svaha. It'll come with repetition. Mariche means rays of light. And that's her name. And so as we chant, you can imagine maybe you're Mariche. You're up there on the moon, or maybe the sun. Or you can imagine that she's in the sky like the sun, emanating rays of light, permeating your body, all beings, the world. Chat for about 5 minutes. You can just listen, I'll call you, and then you pick up the phone and respond, like kirtan. It's 2 parts. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Mariche Che Prome Jasvaha Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Mariche Che Prome Jasvaha Om Tare Tu Re. Let's sing together. Mariche Che Prome Jasvaha Om Tare Tu Re. Mariche Che Prome Jasvaha. Next part. Om Tare Tu Re. Mantra is the same, just different melody. Mariche Che Prome Jasvaha Om Tare Tu Re. 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 Mariche che brahmi jasvaha. Om Tare Ture. 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 Mariche che brahmi jasvaha. With the sound of the bell 3 times, we'll imagine our dedication, any positive energy that's come from our practice, radiating out in all directions, filling all of space. Thank you. Oh, feels good to sing together again. It's been a while. So, Tara Marichi, how was the sound? Did it work?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was streaming, so.
Oh, right, the stream. Okay, yeah. Okay, good. We're working on, improvements over time. Sound-wise, sound is so important. Well, it is time, so I don't want to hold you if you have to go, but also I'd love to allow some time for question, comment, observation, query. Maybe 1 or 2. And then I'll stay afterwards if people want to come introduce themselves. If you're new, I'd like to meet you as well. How did that land? This was a survey, right? Kind of a terrain, lay of the land. How did that feel, just spending a bit in these stages? Yeah.
Well, I just had a question, like, with the in-breath, with the, like, the musty air.
Musty, I like that word. Yes, I'm looking for new adjectives.
But, at what point, like, how much are you really, like, supposed to heal this suffering? Like,
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yes.
how intense should that be, or should we
Yeah.
cover ourselves from
That's why we work with it in terms of texture first, because it's not like say if somebody has, cancer, we're not trying to feel what that would feel like in our body if we're breathing it in. So we're working with the texture. So like the dark, musty, try to move away from dark, light, whatever, it's too much. But like a denser, sometimes they say it's hot. So you could feel that. Musty is nice, mildewy, no, whatever you want. Smoggy. But just feel it more like in terms of texture. Dense, warm or hot. And then breathing out the cool, clear remedy kind of energy so that you're feeling that contrast. So not too much like the actual literal suffering. Like if you're working with somebody who has a lot of anger issues, when you're breathing in, it's not like suddenly you're like taking in like all this anger and supposed to feel anger. It's more of like you're taking that anger in, but you're taking it in the form of, does that help? The form of musty vapor. And then that, it's like, I always think of the orb of light like a sun. You know how the light of the sun evaporates? The mildew, the dew, the musty mildew. And then that's what happens when it reaches that orb of light at your heart. And then you breathe out the remedy. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. In a way, maybe that's also effective in the sense of a little bit of a, not like we have to protect ourselves. It's very much not the language used in Dongland. But it kind of creates a little bit of a stage of separation a little bit. So we don't tend to take it literally. Oh, I have to take on their alcoholism or Yeah. Maybe one more? Someone else? Yeah.
I found it really interesting to kind of check in and take like inventory of my relationships
Yes.
this way.
Yeah.
Because I found myself just kind of scanning and checking in and then finding some surprises there, like just as to how what I'm feeling towards people.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated kind of this like multi-layered thing happening that you even pointed out, like breathe in the distraction, breathe in the fatigue. And I found through the process, I often had to kind of cut back to myself, or just like a lot of even tightness in my jaw or sensation in my belly, and breathe that in so that I could be present again.
Good point. Yes. Yeah, that is something I have found too in my practice, and it's not so much articulated in any of the commentaries that I've ever read or teachings that I've had, but I think it's very important to feel the freedom and to be aware that there might be times when it might be a little overwhelming or the body might be holding maybe in some way, and that maybe it's good rather than moving on to the next step or the next phase, or even in the middle of working with the so-called enemy, maybe taking some time back with yourself, like, okay, regroup here, how am I doing? Yeah. And maybe even that can be happening at the same time eventually as it feels maybe a little bit more, maybe not so difficult, or you're having an easier day with it. Or it can be changed. This is a very intuitive practice. So realizations like that are very good and welcomed. Like this is meant to be a guide, but make it your own. And I mentioned this at the beginning, some days I just do self-poem. I really think that that's not to be minimized. It's like if we can feel compassion for ourselves, we're going to be more likely to feel compassion for others. And I think feeling compassion for ourselves is often harder, right? We're hard on ourselves. Yes.
So I've been really trying not to be forceful about visualization, and like if it comes, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I've also been trying to let them like guide himself in a way.
Hmm.
And the first one, I had this like set of images emerge, and then just like do stuff. Like things were just happening, and I had the urge to like control. Like so the person that I was imagining, like just like I you know there's stuff going on, and then suddenly they were like moving upward, like as if there was like a platform that was just suddenly moving upward, and and it just was going upward and upward and upward and upward, and I had this like feeling of like, oh gosh, I can't go up that far, or like I can't, like I was this like, how do I like, and I was just like, but it was really odd, like an odd sensation of like, okay, they're just going up now, and like I'll kind of step back, and I can't actually like manage that space.
Interesting. And this was with, it actually doesn't matter which one it was, but you said the first one, so it was the love one. God, the image I got, I don't know if it felt this way, but the image I got is that it's like you're taking off the sandbags, right? Like of suffering, sandbags of suffering, and they can get more levity. They can have more liberation or lightness in their life. I mean, that's the image that came to me. And yeah, I mean, and then I would say, well, who's to say you can't rise up? Maybe you want to sprout some wings and fly up there with them and go and be like, yeah, I'm still breathing with you, honey, you know, or not, you know, that's okay too. Whatever, you know, again, this is intuitive. Like, yes, I like what you said about letting the imagery arise and going with it. And then just being aware if it veers into distraction. It doesn't sound like it did. It sounded like you were tracking it and you were present.
Well, at some point I just like let go, and I like just came back to my breath, and it's like, I don't need to manage
Maybe it was
the
complete.
situation.
Did it feel like it was complete, or did it feel like something else was happening?
I kind of felt like, with all of them, I felt like I kind of let it be complete
Yeah.
before you're done with it. I was just like, okay, like I think, yeah, I was like, I'm letting go of that one.
Yeah.
She rose up and out of like my field,
Yeah.
and
It's fun.
I would have to expand much bigger to go there too, and I didn't feel like I had that.
I say just go with it. You know, what's great is that it's alive for you. It's better than a two-dimensional thing. I mean, that can happen too. Sometimes mine are kind of static, like, oh, it's sort of a picture, because I haven't seen them in a while. I don't have a clear memory of what they were looking like the last time I saw them, but at least I'm trying. But it sounds like yours were very alive, and that's interesting to engage with that.
That was the only one that was visual.
That was, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes people really do have a hard time, or even there's this certain, some people can't visualize, or they don't feel that they can. And that's okay too. You can work with the feeling. I mean, or the imagination. Yeah, like, okay, my sister, or I'm just making that up, my sister, I'm imagining her, the way I feel around her. You know, you can work around it if the imagery is challenging for you. You can work around it more with a feeling tone, how you feel when you think of them and they're suffering. Maybe breathe that in and breathe that out. It's just this tends to be the angle on this practice, is to actually visualize. And I've talked about that before, and then I'll wrap it up. But thank you for that. That's really great. And it's fun to hear how it's coming alive and living in you all. Now I'm forgetting what I was going to say. Geez, what was I about to say? It's okay. It floated up. Floated up. Bye. Let you go. Oh, yes. What was I going to say? Oh, well, you know. I'll come back next week and I'll remember maybe. I'll pretend I remembered it. Oh, I remember what was it. So important. All right, you guys. Well, I'll sit up here for a couple minutes if new folks, especially when I come up and say hi. I love to meet the new folks, and also, or if you have a question, you can come up and ask me that way. Okay? Or enjoy tea out there in community in the wonderful, colorful new space. It's looking good.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's coming together.
New furniture, the new rug. It's looking
The
very,
rug.
very warm. Yeah.
The rug ties
Yes.
it in, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and Hannah, any announcements?
One announcement is that we have Death Sangha happening on Saturday, this coming Saturday. If you haven't been to that before, it's pretty wild, intense journey through death in meditation. So check that out if you're interested. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and if that sounds really weird, it's actually not. Like in the Buddhist world, meditating on impermanence and death is an important part of the path. It's actually cool. It sounds awesome.
Have
I'm
you
glad
been
he does
before?
it. No, but I heard
Okay.
him describe it, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I should go.
I went to the one in October and
Yeah.
it was really powerful. Totally a trip.
Yeah,
I recommend for me if you're curious, but it is quite intense. So
right. Be ready for that.
be ready.
Yeah, self-select.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alright.
Okay. Thank you. See you.
You can leave our chant sheets up here at the front.
Musty. I gotta write down the good attitudes. Oh, can't find that.